to everyone. In the 43rd verse, Tatra tam buddhi sanyogam labhate paurvadehikam. There, united with knowledge acquired in his former body, buddhi sanyogam, because of the union of your association with the spiritual wisdom. Here, when you use the word jnanam, he only means wisdom, because we understand that when you move forward from this birth to the other, you do not carry forward your knowledge or information, but you carry forward your wisdom. So when the word he means there, united with knowledge, means united with wisdom, acquired in his former body, the previous body. He strives more than before. Yatate cha tato bhuyaha. More than before. He strives. Yatate. His effort gets more pronounced. His effort gets more enthused, more than before, for samsiddhau, for perfection. So there's a tremendous thrust because of the traction you gain in the previous birth, in the previous body, the former body, paurvadehikam. You get a conducive environment, and your inner enthusiasm also gets strengthened. So because of the conducive environment and having an inner enthusiasm, your effort gets more and more pronounced. So this is what he said in the 43rd verse. So let's move on. In fact, with this line of thought, he's actually going to conclude the chapter, the next few verses. So you need to understand the phenomenon of death and birth. The phenomenon of death and birth. In fact, death is nothing but the transference of your subtle and causal body from one gross body to another. The transference of the contents, which is your subtle and causal matter, subtle and causal body, from one gross body to another, is the death of the first and the birth of the later. I repeat, the definition of death or birth is the transference of your subtle and causal body from one gross body to another, is the death of the first and the birth of the later. It's just a transference. So if I have strived for spiritual perfection, if I've exhausted my vasanas, the same content will be carried forward into the next birth with a purer inner personality. And because of a sheer desire for liberation and the conducive environment, your efforts towards perfection is only going to get strengthened. So nothing is lost as far as the spiritual efforts are concerned. Nothing is carried forward with reference to the worldly pursuits are concerned. All right. 44, please. Purvabhyasena tenaiva kriyate hyavashopi saha jignasurapi yogasya shabda brahmati vartate. Purvabhyasena tenaiva kriyate hyavashopi saha jignasurapi yogasya Shabda Brahmati Vartate. Again, he says, Purvabhyasena tenaiva kriyate hyavashopi saha. By that former practice alone, he is born irresistibly. Even merely wishing to know yoga, he goes beyond Shabda Brahma, which is the word Brahman. Jignasurapi yogasya Shabda Brahmati Vartate. He goes beyond the syllable Brahman, the symbol Brahman. He reaches Brahman. That's what it means. Now, what he clearly says, by the former practice alone, he is born irresistibly, Hyavashah, helplessly. Thank you, Gayatri Ma. So the past efforts are so powerful that helplessly, avashaha means helplessly you're born, irresistibly you're born into the environment. So the environment becomes so conducive. Now how does he say so convincingly that the environment becomes conducive? Because of the former practice, you are, in fact, in the previous verse, what did he say? United with the knowledge acquired in the former body, he strives for perfection. So just because you strive for perfection, how does it mean that you get a conducive environment? It's very important you understand the rationale or logic behind that. Just because you want to strive for perfection, how does it mean, how does it guarantee that the next birth you will have a conducive environment? You don't have to have answers, think, please. You may not have thought. I'm only facilitating the thought processes. Just because, I repeat, just because you want to strive for perfection, how does it mean that the environment becomes ready for you in the next birth? Here, in this birth, I'm striving for perfection. He says, next birth, environment is made ready. How profound is that? How convincing is that? Now, what you got to understand the principle is the principle of gross is being controlled by the subtle. Subtle controls the gross. This is the principle in any sphere of life. It's the higher rung that controls the lower. They say the economy, the wealth of the world is only held with only 1 or 2%, if I'm not wrong. 97% of the world or 95% of the world are just being driven by this 5%, let's say, of people who drive the world, drive the world's economy. So subtle control the gross. Just an example. Now, in the context, the subtle that controls the gross. What is the subtle that controls the gross? The subtle that controls the gross here is that sankalpa. It is just a thought. When you have a genuine thought, when you have a genuine wish, the wish or the sankalpa or the thought is subtle. The gross is the environment, the physical gross environment automatically is prepared for your fructification. So it is the world that you're living in is a gross environment. The world you live in is gross, is physical. So the physical gross environment is controlled by the subtle thoughts and your mind. So if I entertain a strong sankalpa for something, it will find its way of getting it fructified. There will be an environment that is provided for its expression, for its satisfaction. The subtle controls the gross, and it's applicable even in between two janmas. This janma, I strive for perfection. I don't attain perfection. Next janma, he says, you are helplessly born. Yavashaha. Helplessly, irresistibly, you're born. You're catapulted to that environment, to that state where you can carry forward your sadhana, your journey. Your subtle controls the gross. And you see the law functioning. And then here, to extend that, he says, even wishing to know yoga, jignasu. Jignasu is actually, the word jignasu is a mere curiosity, mere wishing. So the word jignasu often is used in a very negative context in the Shastras. If somebody here is just coming to merely listen to the Gita, mere curiosity, it's just so nice just listening to the Gita. Throughout the day, I'm doing nothing. Something is coming free my way, let me listen. Nothing else to do. So you are just merely casually listening to the Gita. That is not something which is appreciated of. The difference between a mere jignasu and a jnani. A jnani is one who seeks the truth. Curiosity is mere satisfying your intellectual thirst. That's no use. But here he uses the word jignasurapi yogasya. So even wishing to know yoga. Now what does it mean? Ramji, if I can ask you, even merely wishing to know yoga.
Namaste, Guruji.
Yes, sir. Namaskar.
So I think, I mean, it's a bit surprising because earlier you mentioned that if you have a genuine wish for for perfection from in this birth and you are pursuing it, then you get the environment in the next birth.
Correct.
You are guaranteed more or less. But again, in the same thing, he is saying that merely wishing to know yoga. That means it is not an in-depth desire or sankalp to become a yogi, but it is a curiosity only at the peripheral level. So how does it, it will take you beyond Shabda Brahman, but that is happening in the next janma. That means if you have had that determination or sankalp in the previous janma, in this janma, even if you have not such a deep commitment, but your interest in attaining it will take you there. Is that what it does? It?
No, in fact, it doesn't mean that. If it means that, then there's a contradiction. No, there is no contradiction. In fact, what we have, how we should read it is, see, you have done so much effort in the previous janma.
Correct, yeah.
You have left, let's say you have left at 85% or 80%, you have left your journey. You carry forward into a far better environment. As he said in the 42nd verse, he says, you are born into the family of the wise yogis only.
Correct.
So you are going to get a birth which you have not been born into. You'll get a much conducive environment. And the desire is, as he says, born irresistibly. Means
Effortlessly. You don't have to make an effort.
Effortlessly you're born into the environment. There is that strong wanting to get there. Isn't it there? Because in the previous verse, he says he strives more than before for perfection. You noted that in the 43rd verse?
Correct.
So the effort is not diluted. You're born in a conducive environment. Your efforts also are reinforced, are strengthened. Now, when these two are taken care of, then he introduces a third element. I repeat, you are born into a conducive environment. Your efforts are reinforced and strengthened because of your former efforts. All right. Then he says, in that situation, a mere wish, jignasurapi yogasya, taken that into account, a mere wish is enough for you to go beyond Shabda Brahma. If you take those two, the point 1 and point 2 out of the equation and say mere Shabda Brahma, mere jignasu, okay, sir, just for discussion's sake, let's say I entertain jignasu, you entertain jignasu. Are you and I don't know about me, but I don't know, maybe there's a fair chance for you, sir. Let me ask of myself. I entertain jignasurapi yogasya. Am I going to cross Shabda Brahma? Don't say yes, sir.
No.
Thank you. You said no.
Not.
Correct. That's
obviously
what.
not. No, I'm.
So you mean to say I'm not going to cross, huh?
No, because you're beyond jignasu. You're a seeker. So when you're a seeker, you will definitely get it. I'm sure you are born into an environment which is a result of your previous birth's determined effort you made in the previous birth. So I'm not about that. But I'm saying that somebody born into that, I'm assuming that this means that somebody who is born with all that background, with all that positive baggage, and then born into a good environment, even if he takes a slight interest in that subject, he will be propelled towards the Shabda Brahma. That's the way I was understanding that. Because can it happen that you're born with all that positive baggage into a positive environment, but you don't take interest? Can it happen like that?
It's not possible, no? See, a person at that juncture, let's say 90% self-realized, yes, and he needs that last push. He's already done. He's already done so much. So obviously he's helplessly born only in that environment.
Correct.
There is no other interest except self-realization. At that point, what does it take him to attain realization? Mere jignasu. So the last bit of effort is in fact effortless, he says. Because you have done so much effort, it seemingly seems effortless, where the mere shabda, mere jignasu, mere interest, you cross and reach the Brahman.
Yeah.
Sir, let's say a person has had savings of 99 lakhs, 99,900 rupees in his account. How much effort he has to put in to convert that into a crore? Or 100 rupees he puts into the account, round figure, 1 crore it becomes. Ilya?
Correct.
So that 100 rupees is not 1 crore, 100 rupees, but the backdrop of 99 lakhs, 99,900 rupees, which is there in your favor, your past karma is in your favor, where the least effort gives you the round figure result of 1 crore, which is just an arbitrary, I'm saying, just an example, you can take it as self-realization. So the last effort is itself enough.
Yeah.
Isn't it? That means he's actually in the verge of realization. So a mere wish is good enough
to carry it through. Yeah.
To carry forward, carry through to you to the final goal of realization.
Correct.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
So This is how we got to understand. Otherwise, it's impossible to transcend the worldly attachment. The terrestrial attachment of the world is impossible to get over because of all the effort you have put in before. The last bit of effort seems effortless. So the effortless element of the last effort is being highlighted by saying jignasu, a mere wish. But if you and I entertain a mere wish, nothing would happen. Please remember this. Nothing would happen. Why? What is lacking with us is we have not done that amount of purva abhyasa. The purva abhyasa is not there.
How do we know, Guruji, whether it was there or not?
No, I'm only talking with reference to verse 42.
I know. No, but I'm asking in general, if I, of course, you explained this once earlier. I remember that whether I am at 60% or 70% or 99%, you told that it depends on, you can measure it by the amount of desires you have and by the amount of attachments you have and all.
Vasanas and attachments. Yes,
that is true. So that is the only way to understand where we stand, right?
Yes, that's the only way.
Okay.
Because the self-realization is no desires,
no
vasanas. So only with reference to that, how closer you are by measuring your state of your mind, your nearness. So the absence of it doesn't create a restlessness in
you. Right.
Where you feel fine without the world. So the restlessness, anxiety within isn't there. That's how you know whether the desire is there. If it is there, how strong it is. If the attachment is there, to what have you got attachment, and to what extent the attachments are pronounced is only a way of going inward and finding out. And you are the best judge, isn't it?
True.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ji. Right. So even wishing to know yoga. Now, people knowing this, what they have done, they have lived a life the way they want. And as they reach their end of their life, in fact, in their deathbed, literally, they're reading the Gita. Because they literally take this verse. They say, even merely wishing to know yoga, you attain Brahman. Without taking into Purva Abhyasa, I may live an entire life, a material and sensual life, and the fag end of my life, will I be able to think of the self? So there was a very wealthy businessman. All his life, he was very shrewd in his business. Rajima, very shrewd. Huh? Very shrewd businessman. Means all his life he manipulated, because other day I learned the word shrewd from Rajima, therefore I'm telling her. So she educated me what shrewd means. So whenever you learn something, you want to show it off. No? So I'm little showing off what little words I've learned. So he was a very shrewd businessman. But his wife was a very pious, very spiritual lady. All through her life, she was trying to force him to come to spiritual path, learn these values, because she learned these verses. She understood the context of this philosophy, and she used to tell him, man, all what you acquire is of no use. Learn this. But he was too busy in his world, he never bothered. So there was a time where his health was seriously deteriorating, and he was bedridden. And doctors had told him, Ma, there's nothing much we can do, but we hope and pray for the best. We're giving all medication required, but don't have false expectations. She was very acceptful because very spiritual, as I said, she was very pious lady. She understood nothing is permanent. So she accepted it, but she wanted some good to happen for her husband, obviously. So what she had a few people to take care of the chores in the house, and she intentionally chose a servant to attend to him. He was told, you will be the person to attend to my husband, to the sir, to the boss. Whatever he needs, you will be there. He said, whatever you say, ma'am. And the reason why she wanted that chap to be the servant or the caretaker for the husband, because the servant's name was Narayana. The servant's name was Narayana. So her intention that whenever this man, her husband, will need help, he will say, hey Narayana, Gavada, hey kidhar hai Narayana, mujhe pani leke aa. Narayana, chai chahiye. Something he'll call for, and he will, at least in the context of it, he will utter the word Narayana through his lips. That was only intention. That even during his last moment, Narayana will come into his lips, and somehow that Narayana will go into his head. Jignasu, Ramji, Jignasu, mere mention of it, he goes there. So she took it literally. But our friend was so materialistic. He used to call a muttala. Engada, hey, pagal, kidhar hai tu? Kitne baar bulana hai tujhe? Even when you're told Narayana, he'll only call muttala. See, so it is impossible. It's not that you can entertain the thought of Narayana in the last moment of your life. If you had the thought of Narayana, if you had told Hari Om throughout your life, even the last breath and the last moment, you will say Hari Om. Enama? Huh? Otherwise, you will only think of the world. And all that he was thinking of was, where did I keep the money? I want to, hey, he called his elder son and said, I've invested there, find out what it is. I have kept this a secret from you. I have put this money there. I've done that there. In fact, I know a family member, I don't want to mention name, that man had stacked hoards and hoards of cash and gold and wealth. Nobody in the family knew. After that old man passed away, when they were destroying, because old house, when they were breaking up the house, they found heaps and heaps and heaps of stack of cash deep in the burrows he created behind the puja room, behind the idols. You'll believe or not, behind the puja room, he actually hid. And when they cleared up, they found that, I said, what man? All his life he had so much, he didn't enjoy. No, he allowed us to enjoy. All their children and their daughters-in-law only curse the father and the father-in-law. What a life, what a life. And if you tell that man to think of Brahman, will you entertain? He will only entertain dollar and cents. So the word, the sankalpa of the Brahman will only come if you have entertained the thought of the self through the journey. So this cause and effect is one thing, and the subtle controls the gross. The two things, these two things you must keep in mind to understand how the law functions. Okay, Tinkima, you wanted to ask something?
I don't know, Guruji, Hari Om. I think maybe the answer has come. I was just wondering about this, how we come into a conducive environment. So that vasana for spiritual realization, like that takes us to a field of activity. Does that not mean it is our vasana that, gives us that conducive environment to continue on the path? Can that be called vasana or no?
Yeah, it is your own vasana, isn't it?
Okay, that's what I want.
But here the seeker has only intention, only interest for self-realization.
Highest desire.
No other desire but realization. So everything else will pave its way for his growth of realization. You will have a conducive environment, such an environment where you can use it for your own growth.
Thank you, Guruji.
Yes, ma'am. Now, what does the word Shabda Brahma mean? Shabda Brahman is the word Brahman. Now, what this means is, as you know, first of all, the word Shabda Brahma means an idol. An idol, or what is an idol? An idol is only used as a tool or a symbol to take you to the ideal. Am I right? An idol is only a tool or a symbol which represents the ideal. The ideal is self-realization. The idol is a symbol or a tool. Now, the symbol or a tool, the idol, can be gross or subtle. A gross idol is an idol which is made up of earth. The element earth is a gross idol. Now, element earth is a gross idol. Subtler than earth. Okay, Harish ji.
Hariyam Guruji.
How many senses can contact earth?
Touch. Sight.
Perfect.
Taste.
Taste.
Not hearing, not. I think these three.
Partially he's woken up. Next question, he'll wake up fully. Never mind. Rajima, see, my job is to wake you up literally and wake you up to the spirituality also. Literally and spiritually wake you up. So I shall play both roles.
Guruji, you can also smell earth, particularly when the earth has been dry and it suddenly rains. The fragrance of earth, you can smell.
You can smell earth and you can also hear earth, isn't it?
Yes.
So in fact, earth
All
can
five.
be contacted by all the 5 sense organs. Harishji. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. So therefore, element earth is the grossest idol, because all 5 sense organs can contact it. Therefore, it's the grossest. And what does it denote when you say grossest? Caters to which bracket of people? Sashikanji. The question is, Namaskar, the grossest idol, as we said, is the earth. So let's say you make an idol which is made from stone or mud. It's still element earth. It is the grossest idol. The grossest idol caters to which bracket of spiritual practitioners?
Hari Om. Maybe it is the starting stage or the starting level of or the initial stage of transformation.
Correct. It is an initial stage of spiritual beginners could be given or are drawn to using saguna upasana. It's called worshipping God with a form. So a gross idol, saguna upasana, which is why we're saying gross, because all your five senses can contact it. It is used, or it caters to the initial spiritual, those who are initial level, spiritual beginners. That doesn't mean those who are advanced become arrogant and say, "Ah, what are you doing?" No. It's not that you become arrogant, but you don't need that as much as another person needs for his sadhana. That's about all. He doesn't use that as a tool to identify with the self. He has another avenue to identify. Isn't it, Shashikanji?
Exactly.
Right. Now, sir, I'm still with you. Superior to just nothing, I'm not going in the entire detail of it. All religions, in fact, in some form or the other, worship fire. Agni. Fire also is an element, isn't it? What are the five Panchabhutas?
Panchabhutas.
The five elements.
Water, fire.
Water, fire,
Wind.
air.
Air, yes. Wind, okay.
Air.
Then one more.
Two more. Space and earth.
Just space and
isn't
earth.
it? So space, air, fire, water, and earth, isn't it? We have water also as an element used in rituals. We worship water. We worship all elements. We worship Vayu. In the Kenopanishad, we said wind god. We worship the wind god. It's a wind god. Worship water. We worship fire. We worship earth. So in the order, in fact, fire is superior, is subtler than earth. Now you find out what are the elements that can contact fire. Think of it. We don't need answers now. Then we can take up clarification further if required. And then subtlest of all idols is space. And there is a connection, Padminima, there is a connection between sound and space, isn't it? What's the connection?
Sound is there pervading the universe. Sound is the I don't know to explain it. Like the fire gives you heat. You hear that sound in the vibration. It is caused by vibration. Yeah.
So the sound vibration travels through space, isn't it? So sound and space are connected, isn't it? So of the sounds, now I hope you're following. Just to capture your thought process, what I've said, an ideal is self-realization. An idol is a symbol or a tool which represents the ideal. An idol can be gross or subtle, and grossness or subtlety is measured by how many senses can contact the element. The five elements are space, air, fire, water, earth. The five senses are eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. If all the senses can contact an element, it's the grossest. So earth, the stone, is the grossest. Fire is superior, is subtler than, not superior, is subtler than earth. Subtlest of all elements is space, and sound travels through space. So sound is the subtlest of all idols, representing the ideal, which is Padmanima, what is the
Oh.
highest ideal?
Om, the sound.
What is the highest ideal? Self-realization.
Ah.
Now, of the sounds, a human being or any being for that matter can produce many, infinite combinations of sounds, isn't it? Especially when you're listening to a foreign language. You said, my God, what is it they're speaking? You listen to Russian or Korean or Japanese or a language which you don't understand. And what language is that, man? All different sounds are coming out and they are very comfortable in conversing that. I don't understand anything, isn't it? So of all the sounds humanity or a living being can produce, what is the subtlest of all sounds?
Om.
Om. Of all sounds, the syllable Om, the monosyllable Om, is the subtlest of all sounds. So when he says, even the mere wishing you cross Shabda Brahma, it means you have reached such a level that the last thing that you use, Om, you transcend that and you get to realization. Transcending Shabda Brahma, the syllable Om, only tells that you are at the verge of self-realization. And only a person at that level can attune to that ideal, to that idol. Sudhakar Garu, are you following, sir? You?
Yeah, I'm trying to follow. I'm following, in fact.
Good, sir. Very good.
I'm concentrating fully.
Yes.
There are some small mishaps also there.
That's okay. As long as you are with the flow, you get the context, you're well and good. Shubhama, anta ardhamavutunda?
Yeah, అర్థమవుతుందండి.
Very
So
good.
one question, Guruji, the subtlest of all is the sound ultimately,
Yes, it is.
and through sound,
Subtlest is sound. Yes.
and through sound only we can gain the ultimate self-realization.
Let's say if I play Michael Jackson song to you now,
Yeah.
that will also produce some kind of sound.
Yes.
But if I hear to that sound, I will get Vijigupsa. Vijigupsa and in Elsa and
Hatred.
not hatred.
But,
You know, the best description I had of Vijigupsa, you know, best description is, let's say somebody offers you a juice. And that juice is nothing but a pus collected from a leper's wound right in front of you. He collects in a glass and gives to you. What is your reaction? What is your feeling?
I can express.
You can't. I can't. You have no words to say. What are you offering to me? That right word. You know, you are so repulsive, as rightly said. You feel so
Yes.
disgusted. What are you? Is this what you're offering to me?
Yeah.
That is Vijigupsa. And I don't mean to put Michael Jackson any down, but Michael Jackson also produced various kinds of sounds.
So it means there are different classifications even in the sound also, where you get elevated or demoted also.
So I'm not sure which chapter, I think it's a 17th chapter. He talks of what is known as austerity of speech.
Austerity of speech. Yes.
So when you speak, what as Padmanima said, it's all vibration. So that speech and the tone with which you speak, what is spoken, it can either transform another person or it can retard another person. It can be acceptful or it can be rejectful, isn't it?
Yes. Like
I can
what
take two metal pieces and produce a sound. It also has a jarring, disturbing effect.
Yeah.
When I play, let's say, a sitar or some musical instrument, it has a melodious sound. Both are sound. So in that sound itself, you have all ranges, and of the sounds humanity can produce, he says Om is the subtlest of sound. In fact, you all should do a little study, just Google and find out whatever information, little wrong also, never mind. You should explore what is the benefits of chanting the mantra Om. Just that Om. And in fact, if you merely chant the mantra Om, it just so calms your mind. Even the most agitated mind calms down. It just settles things. But here we are talking of a highly matured mind meditating. You reach a very high state. In fact, he says you cross the word Brahman, you get to self-realization, isn't it? Sorry, you were wanting to ask something, Ji?
No, in fact, after hearing to you, your I mean to say satsang, I forgot what I wanted to ask you.
If it comes back, let me know.
Yeah, I will definitely do it, Guruji. Yeah. I grossly involved in what you are telling, and I'm to the subtlest of the speeches also. I was just engrossed in that,
No
Suddenly,
problem.
I slipped out of my mind what I was.
No problem. Perfect. But I'm happy you are with the thought flow, because certain concepts can be very difficult to grasp, All right. So perfect, Ji. Thank you. So even mere wishing to know yoga, which means that the seeker is such a high elevated state, the mere thought, a mere sankalpa, that's what mere wishing means. Mere sankalpa is enough for him to realize the self. Okay. Right. 45, please. Prayatnadhyatamaanastu yogi samshuddha kilbhishaha aneka janma samsiddha tato yati param gatim. Prayatnadhyatamaanastu yogi samshuddha kilbhishaha aneka janma samsiddha tato yati param gatim. But the yogi who strives with assiduity, purified of sins and perfected through many births, then attains the highest goal. Striving assiduously. Yogi striving with assiduity. Assiduity. What does assiduity mean? Prayatnat. What is the English word assiduity means? Something, thanks Gayatri Ma. Assiduity is pursuing something with a purpose, where you don't get lost, you don't get involved, you don't get distracted. So yogi striving with assiduity, purified of sins. Sins means vasanas. So only when you pursue the self with assiduity, all the impurities gets destroyed. The vasana gets destroyed. I know you're all seekers of this knowledge, seekers of this wisdom, but I don't know how many of you, amongst you is a yogi. I do not know how many amongst you are assiduously seeking. assiduity is that purpose. So there was a king who had no heir to the throne. A beautiful story. Often I've heard, and it's worth remembering and reiterating. A king had no heir to the throne, and he wanted to find an heir soon. So he made an announcement that he will set up an exhibition, a grand exhibition. And he had actually invited people from across the region to come and exhibit their products, various products from different parts of the region, everybody invited. And actually that exhibition will be thrown open for free. And anybody can come to that exhibition. And he said, I, as a king, will be incognito in the exhibition. I will be there every day for the next 1 week in the exhibition. Whoever identifies me, but I'll be in disguise, obviously. I will be in disguise, incognito in the exhibition. Whoever identifies me, he will become the king. This is the condition. And when the announcement came, there was such an excitement because everybody wanted to become the king. It's just identify, because all of them knew their king. And it wouldn't be difficult to identify the king. That's what they all thought. But there was a gate crash. The gates opened and there was a gate crash. And everybody, what were they doing? Vaidyanathanji, what were they doing? Everybody rushed to the exhibition grounds.
They were trying to identify the king.
And they didn't even want to miss the security guard. Because there were a couple of security guards, old fellows were there. So they went and started pulling the beard and just checking, is it the real beard or what? So they all were very serious, very clear what purpose they went to the exhibition. So it started with a security guard. They went into the grounds, and then they started seeing the variety of exhibits that were there. The best of silk saris, the best of toys, the best of amenities, the best of accessories, the best of watches, the best of this, the best of that were there. So one by one, the ladies went into the sari shop with the intention of finding out if the king is there in the store. But very soon they got,
Lost
as
in
usual, lost in the shop. And that the toys which were there, the kids got distracted. The youth got distracted with all the entertainment that was there. So as they went, each one of them had no assiduity. They lost the purpose by which they came into the, and everything was free. You can go and participate, and then for a little amount, you can buy what you want. They were so excited, man. Something which costs you 10,000 rupees coming for 500 rupees. Oh my God, I'll pick it up. So they all got distracted. They all lost their purpose, assiduity. But there was one young man who was in that exhibition, who went every store, who went to every nook and corner of the exhibit. But he told himself, man, this is a big farce. The king is not there. I have not left any inch of the exhibition ground. I have covered every part. So he was so tired. Few days he spent, every day he came, and the third day he said, this is the whole thing is a joke. So he went to the other extreme end of the exhibition. There was a small temple, and he sat at the steps of the temple exhausted, cursing everybody out there that this whole thing is a total waste. And then suddenly he realized the puja was going on, end of the evening. The arati was going on. He was distracted by that sound. He got up and he went to take the darshan, and the pujari that came out And when he was giving the darshan, he looked at the pujari. Instead of taking the darshan, he said, "Hey, are you not the king? Are you not the king?" And the king was so excited. It was the king in disguise as a pujari in that corner section of the temple. So what you learn from that, what's the message in that? Even to reach that section of that ground, which was a temple, which was in the corner of the ground, even to reach there, you need to be extremely detached. Don't get distracted. Don't get carried away with any other thing. So that seriousness to pursue the truth is what is called assiduity. Assiduity is to have that purpose, that clear purpose set to reach the goal, and the goal is self-realization. Nothing else will interest me. And if any one of you out there gets serious about this goal of realization, I tell you, you will have no time for anything else in this life. You have no time for anything else. Now you have time to do so many things. Is because you're not serious in getting to the goal of realization. There is no assiduity in you. It's not for me to sit and decide who is assiduous or not, but one who gets into this assiduity, you will have only purpose, which is to get to the self. And once you have to do that, you have no other time for anything else. You will participate in everything else, but you are only interested only to get to the self. You'll participate. You'll wine and dine, you'll shop and walk and talk, but yet your only purpose is self-realization. That is what assiduity. And when you do that, he says, all your purities, sins are purified rather. Sins here means vasanas. Not that this fellow has committed a crime. Huh? Sin means vasanas. All his vasanas are burnt off. So it requires a tremendous amount of concentration, tremendous amount of consistency to qualify into what this verse is saying, which he has perfected through many births. It's not something you can achieve in one birth. You have perfected through many births. Aneka janma samsiddha. Isn't that a beautiful word? Ashama. Aneka janma samsiddha. Aneka janma.
Yeah. Many births.
Many births. Samsiddha means perfected.
Perfected. Yeah.
So you.
Each step, each janma takes you towards your goal.
Each janma takes to the goal. What does this mean?
Provided you don't lose sight of your goal in each janma.
Correct. You don't lose sight of the goal, which also means this: we all must strive further in this birth.
Yeah.
Do not get distracted, isn't it?
True.
You will have family, you will have society, you will have everything coming your way. But don't get distracted with anything but the opportunity to realize the self also is your way, isn't it?
Yes.
This knowledge also has come your way. Idli would also will come your way. But you should not get distracted.
And the guru who shows the path.
A guru that is the very definition of a guru, isn't it? A guru is one who facilitates it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So true. Right. So to make good use of what's coming our way, isn't it? Is all divinely sent, godly sent, isn't it? So every opportunity to use for our own betterment to reach the goal. So in case we don't reach, we are assured that there is a certain future. But sadly so, a Vedantin doesn't think that way. A pessimistic fellow, how does he interpret perfected through many births? A pessimistic fellow will think, oh, I am not at that state. Many births are there for me to go through. A Vedantin will say, all of them have gone and this is my last birth. What is wrong? Gayatri Ma, can we not think that way? Perfected through many births.
Yes, Guruji, we can think that way.
The thinking also is a little cheekiness. Serious
Illa Guruji. Illa
Guruji.
We can think this is my last birth also, na?
But then why are you smiling and telling?
Because some vasanas are there, so I may think that there is one more birth, that's all.
I know that. That is what I'm saying. I know you're not serious enough. I know that you think there might be one more, one or two, but still, for the sake of telling, I'll tell. Ma, if you tell with the serious intention that this is my last birth, the mere jignya surapiyogasya shabda brahma. Did not learn the previous verse. The mere sankalpa is enough for you to cross. So what is the harm in entertaining the sankalpa? Yeah. But understandable, you know your vasanas still, but please, there's no harm in entertaining the sankalpa. That's all right.
Yes, good.
Isn't it?
Yes.
But the sheer mindset that matters, isn't it? There's no harm in entertaining that thought. Then he says, such a person reaches the supreme goal. So every one of us are intuitively drawn towards the self. You like it or not, you are seeking it. You have an affinity to it. But what matters is, we are all seeking. What matters is, are you intensifying your efforts? As they say, you can put in effort, you can put in curricular effort, or you can put in extracurricular effort. Can you intensify your efforts to the goal of realization? Or you're just putting ordinary effort, or you're putting in curricular effort, or you're putting extracurricular effort. It is the talent plus the effort. Now, the question is, what is it that prevents you from putting in this effort to get to the self? You have, if you don't have this sankalpa, you will not be in this satsang. The fact that you come back is because you have it in you. But what is it that's preventing you from putting in that extracurricular effort? Sir, I'm not getting your name, sir. So if I could, you named yourself as iPad next to me. Vijay, could you? Elderly gentleman, I don't get your name. It just comes as a flash to me, sir. It's not coming. It's there.
I think it's Vyasapit Raghuramji.
No, it's not Vyas. He's clearly named there. Somebody is named iPad at the top. The gentleman is wearing specs. Seturamanji's friend. How do I? Sir, from the Taj Mahal group, sir. Namaskaram, sir.
Yes, sir. Namaskaram, sir.
Namaskaram. Sorry, sir, I'm not able to recall your
I'm Prakash Rao.
full name. Prakash Rao, correct, sir. Now I'll not forget, sir. See, the thing is, your system also doesn't read, so I couldn't identify you. Thank you, sir. So I just wanted to connect with you. We all have this nature which brings us to it, isn't it, sir?
Yes, sir.
There is that innate nature in us. But what is the thing that holds us back from putting in that extraordinary effort which is required to be a yogi?
First is ignorance. Ignorance of the self. Only on a later date we come to know that. It is beyond our age.
No, beyond, not physical age, spiritual age we're talking about, sir.
Of course, not spiritual age, but beyond this thing, we are our age.
Right.
Not spiritual age.
Okay. So you think it is ignorance that is preventing us from putting in the effort?
Initial ignorance.
Initial ignorance. Let's say during your association with the knowledge, with the gurus, with the exposure, the ignorance goes off, isn't it?
Yes, slowly it goes off.
Slowly goes off.
And at the same time, we feel guilty.
Right. Fair enough. No, it's all integral part of our learning and molding. But what is it that prevents us? You're very right, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Glad you could identify yourself that I'm wanting to connect with you, Thank you, Andy. UK, what is it that prevents you from putting in the effort? I'm sure the ignorance you had and the ignorance you have now is much less.
Namaste, Guruji. Yes, definitely some kind of an awareness has come. But then one thing is not sure about your own capability to put in that kind of an effort. And secondly, that developing that kind of a detachment to the world. Effort is being made, but the attachment is so much that it is taking a lot of time, and as you said, this kind of assiduous efforts has to be put into develop that kind of a detachment.
Looks like you have copied my notes. You've stolen my notes. That's how it looks like. That is the only answer I can say.
It's a sincere reply I'm giving, Guruji.
That is what I'm also sincerely trying to teach, but somebody sincerely takes my notes and answers exactly what I say, means it's copying my notes, no? That too, you have said verbatim also. That means every doubt is clarified.
Thinking along, Guruji, that's all. Slight effort to think along, that's all.
No, in fact, you are so correct, so correct. What, in fact, even Annapurna in a comment, she has rightly said, it is our attachments. We are not able to let go of that we have been holding on to so dearly, thinking it is everything in our life. And that attachment is not freeing us.
Yes.
So the assiduity or inconsistency comes in because of our attachments.
Yes, Guruji. True.
And the least attachment, the least detachment we can practice is during this class, at least.
Not look at your cell phone.
Switch it off. Put it off. Isn't it? I'm not available for the world. At least this 1.5 hours, for God's sake, not for my sake, at least for the sake of Brahman, please do that.
For our own sake, Guruji.
No, for the sake of Brahman, you do. For your sake, now you will say, I'll pick up the phone and, for the sake of Brahman, you should do, not for your sake. Isn't it? So what is the reason for the inconsistency, or as lack of determination? Siddharamanji said vasanas is, Rajima says, in immediate interest in the fruits of action. All of this is the mind and the anxiety to its areas of attachments. Therefore, what we need to do is practice the first verse. We get the advice from the same chapter. What's advice we got from the first verse of the 6th chapter? You don't have to turn the chapter, Ma, Usha Ma.
No, I'm not doing that, Guruji. but it's.
You should
I mean,
by heart this verse. I know you are a singer, you're a musician. You all have the knack of by hearting this. So you should by heart the first verse, ma. Anashrita karma phalam karyam karma karotyah. Teriyama?
No, I have not by heart.
You could by heart. Might something worth by hearting. Anashrita karma phalam karyam karma karotyah sa sannyasi sa yogi na niragnir na chakriyah. So he who does his bounden duty, renouncing the fruit of action. Anashrita means
without
renouncing without expectation, renouncing the fruits of action. Karma phalam, renouncing the fruits of action. Karyam karma karotyah. Karotyah is perform your obligatory actions. If you do that, he says, you are a sannyasi, you are a yogi. Agnihi, na agnir na chakriyah. Na agni means not the one without fire. The fire is there in you to reach the goal of realization. And you become a yogi or a sannyasi. So it's not difficult to become a sannyasi or yogi. A sannyasi or yogi is one who does his duties, renouncing the fruits of action. Such a person, he says, becomes a yogi. Thereafter, if you inject that spirit of detachment, you become an assiduous yogi. And once you become an assiduous yogi, it instantly results, thereafter results in your sins are being purified and you have attained the state. He says, such people reach the supreme goal. Paramam gatim. Param gatim is the supreme goal. They get to me, realization. Look at the thought process, how he connects everything. So when you read the whole text, you get a panoramic view of the text and the subject matter and how it fits in, right? I wanted to get into the next, but let's not rush into it, and we'll come back to verse 46, 47, and time permitting, we will start chapter 7 itself next week. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.